Okay, so in this video, I want to talk about how you can estimate the revenue of any Shopify competitor that you might have. So let's say you have a store like this one or any other store, except that you obviously don't see the analytics because it's not your store. It's a store that is just there online. However, you are curious or interested, or for whatever reason, very classic reason is, of course, competitor research, right? You want to understand how well another Shopify store is doing. And there are some tips and tricks in terms of estimating the revenue of Shopify stores that you have no access to. So let me show you the two most effective methods that I have found, and I've tried quite a few. So check it out. And by the way, I do want to make this point that there are a bunch of online tools like Alexa PageRank, SEMrush, SimilarWeb, MOZ, and a bunch of other ones, and they are not accurate for smaller stores, right? So the majority of all Shopify stores, I'm sure, are stores that make, below 2 million a year in revenue, right? Those tools do not work accurately because they just do not have enough traffic for those tools to kind of get enough data to actually understand what's going on, especially if the store has many, many different products, right? Then it gets extremely complicated. If it's like a one product store and it's big enough, some of those tools can work, although I think the variance there is also way too big. And the only way you can test it is actually if you have your own store, right? So the store I just showed you, right? If you run those tools on this store, right, I obviously know exactly how much revenue the store makes in a given time period. I can then compare it with those tools, and I'm telling you those tools are just not that accurate. Okay, so what is option number 2 to figure out the revenue of a store that you're interested in? And that is the inventory hack. As the name already says, it has to do with the inventory, reverse engineering the inventory of the store and seeing how much they sell out in a given time period, and then based on that, figuring out how much revenue they make. By the way, that's actually the way that all those tools that essentially estimate the revenue of competitors on Amazon work. So if you ever, if you're familiar with Amazon FBA, there's tools like Helium 10 and a bunch of other ones that are very popular. And what they do is that they essentially give you the revenue of all the competitor listings because they are able to reverse engineer the inventory, which is much, much easier with Amazon FBA because everything runs through the Amazon warehouses and it's running on the same process. With Shopify, it's harder because, again, with Shopify, every merchant chooses their own way to fulfill the items. Well, let me show you how this works. So again, let's go back to the best-selling page, as I already showed you how to get there. And I'll just take the best-selling product. And what you do is you want to max out the add to cart, right? So let's just assume you put in 1,000. It's quite unlikely, again, it depends how big the store is, right? But let's just try to do that. Okay, let's go on checkout. Exactly. And this is exactly what you want to see, right? What the store does is that it automatically tells you, look, you can't buy 1,000 because we don't have 1,000 in stock. We only have 219 in stock, right? This is also a feature of Shopify to automatically adjust the order quantity, right, to the exact number that's actually available. That is, if they obviously hold the inventory and they actually track it correctly on their Shopify backend, right? And I'll show you in a second how that works. But the point is, now that for their best-selling product, they have exactly 219 units in stock. That means if you go back and let's say in a week, you just do the exact same thing, right? You also max out. This number won't be 219, most likely. It might be 185, right? Or 73 or 129, right? Whatever the number is, you can essentially track this day by day, or even multiple times a day if you're really, really interested, and therefore reverse engineer. Because let's say it's 219 today, right? And tomorrow, just assume it's 200, right? That means they sold 19 units of their best-selling product in a given day, and then you can obviously go back and use the average order value assumption, which we said was 30 euros approximately for this unit, right? And then multiply 30 times 20, and then essentially get the estimated revenue in that given day, and then extrapolate that across a week or a month, whatever you think will be the most valuable for you. So that's really the inventory hack, and it does work very well. Where, however, it doesn't work, and this is, again, how you can protect yourself, right? So again, I do want to let you know for yourself, right? To make sure that you know exactly what's going on. This does, again, I just went to some random product page in one of my stores, and you can see that this setting is on every single product page in the inventory section, right? It says, well, first of all, track quantity, right? You need to track quantity, because if the store doesn't track quantity, then Shopify, again, won't know what the inventory number is that it should then show the customer if they're trying to max out. And at the same time, this is the key setting, continue selling when out of stock, right? If you press that, then even if you try to max out on the add to cart page, right, Shopify will not tell you that you need to adjust your order number, right? Because again, the store is going to continue selling even when they're out of stock, right? It's obviously best practice not to do that. If you're actually not out of, if you're actually not in stock, then of course you shouldn't continue selling, right? Especially if you're selling very aggressively. But many stores do it, and there are reasons why you sometimes should put it in the setting, because, for example, especially if you're drop shipping, this might not work because you do not have inventory. It might still work actually for some drop shipping stores, because what I see, and I have actually also done kind of not by accident, but what happens is that if you're drop shipping, sometimes you just put a kind of fake inventory number, right, of just like 100,000 for your best selling product, which then just reduces, and you do track the quantity. However, it's kind of a fictitious inventory amount. And that's especially if you're just a store starting off and you use Oberlo or one of those apps to essentially pull a product from AliExpress, right? It might just put in like a default number in terms of the inventory. And here it would still work, right? It doesn't matter what the number, if the initial number is correct or not, the difference is what matters, right? So even in a fictitious kind of drop shipping store, right? If you start with 100,000 inventory and then the next day it's 999,085, right? Then it's that difference which will allow you to actually estimate the revenue of that store, right? If, however, again, you want to protect yourself, then do go on your product page and press continue selling when out of stock. Do keep in mind that obviously you will then allow customers to buy your products if you're actually out of stock, and that might be an issue if you actually do use a 3PL to actually fulfill your items. So keep that in mind. But those are the two methods that you can use to essentially estimate the revenue of any Shopify store. Hey, before you bounce, check out some of the Shopify apps that we have built for our own stores, which might be useful for your stores. So we're very excited to hear your feedback, and check it out in the link below.